Well, hello, friends, and welcome to another Ask Zach. I hope you're doing well today. Today, we're going to talk about Danny Gatton. Wow, huge influence on me. Love his playing, love what he brought to the guitar community, the joy, the freedom, the fact that you could play just about anything on a Telecaster, pushed that kind of thing, which of course I love. And yeah, just love Danny Gatton's work. So that's what we're going to talk about today. If you haven't subscribed and you've been enjoying the show, then please go down in the corner. And yeah, if you've already subscribed and you'd like to support the show, we'll go to askzach.com. You can go to the store there. You can pick up a nice mug or a t-shirt. And there's also tip jar information in the description if you prefer that way. All right. So Danny Gatton. I was first exposed to Danny through guitar magazines. So he was on the cover of Guitar Player, the famous, kind of Phantom of the Opera mask thing, where it's the world's greatest unknown guitar player. He was also, there was a big spread on him in Guitar World magazine. Remember, it was light blue with Robert Cray on the cover. And remember, reading that issue and reading about Danny. And but I wasn't really able to hear him until 88 Elmira Street came out, and that was because his earlier albums were all on independent record labels, and you couldn't find those albums at a regular record shop. I guess there were ads in which you could have sent in money, but you couldn't just go to a record store and buy one of his albums until 88 Elmira Street came out, because it was on Elektra. Again, this is all pre-internet and stuff like that. It wasn't like you could just Google Danny Gatton. So, I remember going and buying the cassette of 88 Elmira Street and putting it in my car. I had a little Nissan 200 SX that was maroon, and I remember putting it in the cassette deck, and it stayed in there for weeks, just listening to it over and over and just being so bowled over by his playing. Both the over-the-top playing, but also just his simple groove and his tone. And I just thought, this guy sounds amazing. It was just as earth-shattering as hearing, Stevie Ray Vaughan or Chet Atkins. It was like, who is this guy? And then he was on Austin City Limits, which of course I watched religiously, being a Texan and also a music fan, and he was on there, and that way I really got to see him. Then there was the Hot Licks videos, and the first one, Telemaster, it suffers from some production issues between the mic volume and the amp volume and stuff like that. There's one that was called Licks and Tricks that, of course, I didn't have, but of course you can find it now online, that I highly recommend that you check out. But the pure gold, and the one that I'm telling everyone that doesn't have it, they need to go out and get it, is the Danny Gatton rhythm guitar video from Hot Licks. And it is ridiculously good. So the little thing I played at the beginning, that was what he calls a two-note wonder. Of course, I was adding a bass note to it, but you have this kind of thing, yeah, ridiculous. Just so great. And then, of course, you can add a bass note to it like I was doing, and like Danny does in the video. He also had these things like this or this kind of New Orleans piano kind of thing. But that video it's pure gold. And if you want your guitar playing to get better, if you haven't seen it already, you need to get that, and you can get it on Amazon. I mean, you could get the hard DVD, the hard copy DVD from Hal Leonard, but Amazon has it available for streaming, and you can buy it for $12, or you can rent it for less than that. But you might as well buy it, because you're going to watch it a bunch. His tone and everything he passes on to that are just ridiculously good. And yeah, and I think he really made it cool to play a Telecaster and play pick and fingers on all sorts of styles of music. He was using the Tele for the rockabilly, the jazz, the blues, the country stuff, and he he was always using that hybrid, technique, and he just made it cool. He made the Telecaster cool to play for just about anything, and yeah, I love him for that. I heard, it wasn't until later, it wasn't until after he passed away, and I remember exactly where I was standing at Belmont University, and I remember when, I was told that he had passed and the way he had passed, and it made me very sad. But, you know, I just, I'm sorry for that, but I'm so glad that we have, the music that we have from Danny. And, later on I heard like the Humbler album, which is of course him live with Robert Gordon. I bought that when I was in Paris, and that's where I was able to find kind of a bootleg copy of that in the late '90s, and that threw me for a great curve because I loved everything he did on there, but especially the steel guitar things that he did on like There Stands the Glass. It was just fantastic, and yeah, so. He continues to influence me and push me, with just the joy and the freedom that he had with the guitar. And, just always played a Tele. He had that 53 Tele. Later on, they made the signature model. He'd put bigger frets in it. And, I guess they used Martin frets. And I guess which would be a little bit taller and a little wider than little Fender frets. And then, of course, he had the Barden pickups, which I've tried, and they didn't really work for me, but he made them sound amazing. The Humbler album is interesting because he was using the single bar Bardens before they were humbucking, and they were kind of based more on a Charlie Christian pickup, but smaller. And that's a really cool tone. His strings were 10 through 46 Dynamax Fender strings, with a 15 G string, which of course would make that nice and light and easy to bend on those steel guitar things. I found out through some digging that Dynamax was just Fender's name for their nickel-plated steel string, so on the wound strings, because before then, pretty much all their strings had either been flat wound or they had been pure nickel strings. So the wound strings had been pure nickel up until that point. And so when they started doing nickel-plated steel, they came up with the name Dynamax because, of course, nickel-plated steel has more output and it's brighter than pure nickel strings. So basically, Danny was using what we would call a regular 10 set, modern set of strings, but with a 15 for a G string. And he used these little jazz, Fender jazz picks that were heavies that in white, which they don't make anymore. You can still get them like tortoiseshell and such. But yeah. And he went through a phase of using that Magic Dingus that controlled like a Leslie and an Echoplex and all sorts of things. But my favorite, tones that he got were, usually, using a Boss delay pedal, or he had a Chandler Echo unit that was a rack mount unit that he used like in the rhythm guitar video, which is just a basic, delay unit. And using either one of those and then into a Fender amp. He'd use everything from like a Tweed Twin to a Brown Vibroverb to, Vibroluxes or all sorts of stuff. But I still think my favorite stuff of him is the Blackface Vibrolux with, one of the Teles with Joe Barden pickups and either the DD2, Boss delay pedal or that Chandler Echo unit. So, yeah, I think he really brought a wonderful thing to the guitar, and his passing was just as significant as Stevie Ray Vaughan, and even more sad to a degree. But yeah, Danny's such a great player. I think back to 88 Elmira Street and just the beauty of him playing the Beach Boys, in my room. Or, the joy of, 88 Elmira Street, the 88 Elmira Street Boogie, where he's playing the old Gibson ES350T, and doing kind of the rockabilly stuff and funky mama, and yeah, just, you know, one of the greats. So if you're not familiar with Danny, I hope you'll listen to my Spotify playlist and go buy some of his albums. I hope that everyone will go and get, if you haven't seen it already, will go check out the Danny Gatton, you know, rhythm guitar video from Hot Licks. It's gold. All right, guys, keep practicing and playing, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.